Hello, gorgeous ladies. I am Prophet Dr. Dana Reece, your prophetic love, inner healing, and success coach. And God has divinely called me to empower you in attracting your divine king husband, in receiving inner healing, and also in enhancing your relationship and marriage journey. So today we are embarking on the first part of a two-part series exploring the realm of codependency, its influence on our relationships, and also its effect on our ability to attract and establish healthy, satisfying partnerships. We'll be illuminating 7 prevalent archetypes of codependent women, and in this first video we're going to be looking at 4 of those. The second video will cover the other 3. So codependency is a silent predator that goes often unnoticed. It's an unhealthy behavioral pattern that makes us overly reliant on our partners for our emotional needs, leaving our personal well-being in the lurch. My personal encounter with codependency and subsequent healing through inner work and God's grace makes me all too familiar with its potential damage. Codependency fosters resentment and hinders personal growth, resulting in relationship stagnation. It can prolong unfulfilling relationships without progress when seeking a divine marriage while single. And regardless of your relationship status, these dynamics result in imbalance, conflicts, resentment, dissatisfaction, loss of boundaries, power struggles, and ultimately unhappiness. So addressing and resolving codependent behaviors is crucial to nurture deep and fulfilling relationships. So when you overcome codependency, you can have a more authentic and harmonious connection with yourself and others. So as you watch this video, take a moment to consider if these insights resonate with your own experiences. The root causes of codependency can be traced back to a tumultuous family environment characterized by addiction, abuse, or ongoing conflict. In such challenging circumstances, children may learn to prioritize others' needs over their own and assume an excessive burden of responsibility for others' well-being and happiness. So these early experiences can sow the seeds of codependent behaviors in relationships later in life. So being subjected to emotional neglect, where consistent emotional support and care are absent, can cause children to suppress their own needs and seek validation externally, which leads to codependent tendencies in later life. So experiencing parentification, where children are forced to assume adult responsibilities due to the absence or inability of a parent, can instill a habit of prioritizing others' needs, which sets the course for future codependency. Also, inconsistent parenting, characterized by erratic behavior and responses from caregivers, can breed insecurity in children, driving them to seek approval and validation from others, thus fostering codependent patterns. So a lack of secure attachment arising from neglect, abandonment, or inconsistent caregiving can result in an insecure attachment style in children. This often manifests as a fear of abandonment, trust issues, and a deep-seated urge to seek validation to please others. So gaining a deeper understanding of these factors will shed light on how codependency may be influencing your relationships. So in part 1 of this series, let's uncover the first 4 of 7 archetypes of codependent women. We're going to reflect on each archetype, and I want you to think and decide if any of these align with your own experiences. So it will be common for you to identify with one or a combination of these archetypes. So, first up is the caretaker. These women prioritize others' needs, often at the expense of their own. They struggle with setting boundaries and they feel guilt when they put themselves first. The caretaker archetype commonly faces distinct challenges in male relationships. Their habitual prioritization of others often triggers self neglect, resulting in an imbalanced relationship. So, difficulty in setting boundaries can lead to feelings of exploitation and resentment. Their self worth closely is tied to their caregiving role, so this often attracts wounded little boys as partners who exploit their nurturing nature, which leads to a burnout and difficulty in healthy relationships. Next is the people pleaser. These women seek approval and validation from others, sacrificing their own desires and needs in the process. The people pleaser archetype struggles in relationships with men due to their constant need for validation. They often neglect their own needs and they suppress their feelings to avoid conflict, which leads to frustration and resentment. So their reliance on others for approval makes them susceptible to manipulation and control from narcissistic, toxic, and angry men. And so over time, they may experience emotional exhaustion and issues with self-worth as their value is tied to external approval rather than internal self-acceptance. Next is the boundaryless woman. These women struggle to set and enforce boundaries, often allowing others to cross their personal lines. So the boundaryless archetype often faces difficulties in relationships with men due to their inability to set and enforce boundaries. This often leads to tolerating inappropriate behavior, diminishing their self-respect. Unaddressed issues fuel resentment, while their susceptibility to manipulation can erode their sense of self. So over time, this continuous breach of personal boundaries causes emotional exhaustion and a loss of identity within the relationship. The enabler is the fourth archetype. Enablers often find themselves in relationships with wounded men who exhibit addictive or unhealthy behaviors, which perpetuates their destructive habits. So the enabler archetype often struggles in relationships with men because they enable unhealthy behaviors such as alcoholism or drug abuse. This leads to a cycle of destructive habits as they often excuse or cover up their partner's actions instead of directly confronting the issues. This dynamic fosters a dependency within the relationship wherein the partner leans on the enabler to sustain their detrimental and unhealthy behaviors. So over time, this creates a toxic pattern filled with deceit, betrayal, and secrecy that leads to resentment and emotional stress for the enabler. And this unhealthy cycle acts as a repellent to high quality men who seek balanced and mutually respectful relationships. It hinders the formation of genuine deep connections as the codependent behaviors signal a lack of self-care and a lack of self-respect, which is fundamental for any strong relationship. So ladies, this is why healing of codependence is necessary. By addressing and overcoming codependent tendencies, you can open the pathway to attract healthier relationships with high quality men who will value you and respect you as an individual, which fosters a more fulfilling love life. So I'd like to invite you to join me for part 2 of this video, where we will delve into the final 3 of the 7 archetypes of codependent woman.